But I've already jumped in on the taste. I beat you to it because I couldn't stand it. I had to go.
It's like going to an event, and on one side, right, you got rock and roll, and then you start moving to the other side, and like, oh, that's some salsa dancing and something going on over there.
Really, 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 really enjoy this.
Whiskey fam, sit down and grab a dram and listen to your boy talk a little bit of tequila with Daniel Warren from the Albuquerque Whiskey Society. Good to have you.
Thanks, Israel. Appreciate the invite.
You got it. So, we are not talking whiskey today. We wanted to talk tequila, and this is actually a surprise. Daniel didn't know we were going to talk tequila. We just got through talking a little bit about Jack Daniels, so hopefully you guys get to enjoy the video where we compare the 10-year and the 12-year side by side, and I get Daniel's perspective as a fanboy of Jack Daniels. But, you know, one of the things that I like to segue to from time to time is mezcals, tequilas, barrel-aged beers, because from time to time I find good sippers. And I did come across a good one that I wanted to share with you and get your thoughts, because I know you're a big bourbon guy, you like bourbon a lot, and I thought this really does speak to a bourbon drinker. And you're going to find out for yourself and let me know if you agree or not.
I definitely will.
Well, let's hop into this thing, shall we?
Let's do it.
This is an 80 proof Extra Anejo. This has been aged for 8 years. I wish I could give more details than that, but I went to these guys' website, didn't find anything actually even on the bottle. This is a Total Wine Distillers Direct, right? Or Spirits Direct release. So if you go to Total Wine and you check out their tequila section, more often than not, you'll come across some Cazuls. And this is their Reserva. Now this is, again, Extra Anejo. So most tequila is not aged for 8 years. So when I did come across it, not only is the bottle beautiful, but I was like, dude, an 8-year tequila is hard to come by, so I better grab it. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah. I'm excited. I did not know this was going to happen, so I am not a normal tequila drinker, but I'm very interested in learning more about tequila because I am hosting a tequila tasting next month.
Far from that.
So I've been asked by many of my members, let's do tequila, and I pushed back, and finally I gave in. So we'll be doing a tequila tasting in July. So I'm excited.
I'm excited for that because, most of the time it's whiskey. And, I've been wanting to do something like that.
You know what's interesting? Even before I pulled it to my nose, I could smell citrus. I don't know what it is, but it was just sitting in the glass and I hadn't even pulled it up and I could smell citrus. So
a lot of citrus. So we're going to dive right in on this nose because, to your point, as soon as I poured it, I can actually smell it now. It's a lot of tropical fruits.
Yeah, a lot of tropical. So as soon as you were pouring it, I thought, ooh, I smell that.
I get pineapple, mango, and lime.
Very, very fruit forward. Very fruit forward.
Very tropical, though.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And a sweetness that feels like caramelized sugar. Now, this is made from 100% Blue Weber agave. And what's distinct about tequila versus, say, mezcal is that for tequila, it has to be made from Blue Weber agave, 100%. And it has to be made in Mexico. But most tequila is actually made in Jalisco, Mexico. So it's that province within Mexico that it's got to come out of and be distilled from. And the big distinction is mezcal tends to be earthy and smoky because of the way that it's made. Tequila is oven baked, so they take the hearts or the piñas of the agave and they basically shave off, all those sharp points. Yep. They throw it in an oven, usually a very massive oven, and they steam it for probably a day or two. So it basically cooks that way in a more conventional style oven versus like mezcal, where that's cooked in a pit, in an earthen pit, and it's smoky, and that's really where a lot of the flavors are kind of drawn from, is that smoke style of cooking. So what do you think?
I've not tasted it yet, but on the nose, definitely that citrus. It's almost like the pith of the citrus that you get that bitter, almost a bitter aroma.
Like the skins.
Like the skins.
Yeah.
Or even the white part. You know, you get past that skin and you get to the white part. The skin usually is more oily.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting as much of that, but it seems to be a little bit more just on the nose. That's what it reminds me, like a lemon, orange, mango, like you said. Mango doesn't have the pith, but...
Do you ever use like agave syrup?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So instead of honey or like maybe some sugar, you just put agave syrup?
Yep.
You get that here.
Yeah, you totally
amount.
do. Totally do.
And I also get a lot of vanilla. So this being 8 years old, it's going to start to lose. And here's what I've heard from aficionados, tequila aficionados, is that the best way to drink a true tequila is blanco or unaged. So basically no aging, just, they let it rest, I think, in a vat for 30 days, maybe up to 90 days or something like that, just to sort of mellow out from the distillation process, right? But they do not age it in any oak barrels, and that's the true way to enjoy a tequila. Think of it like the authenticity of it, right? But when you start putting it in an oak barrel, you're going to get a whole lot more flavor, and most of the time tequila's aged in an ex-bourbon barrel. And I definitely get a lot of like vanilla and like sweetness though.
This one you don't know.
It doesn't say.
What type of barrel is used?
I wish I knew, and I could probably find out by maybe looking up somebody's review. I try to avoid getting details like that from other reviewers unless it's like a really good source, because you don't know where they got that information from. I'd rather get it right from the distillery.
That makes sense. Makes sense.
But there's no information on that.
Yeah, interesting.
I have to assume though.
I would assume so as well. But I've already jumped in on the taste. I beat you to it because I couldn't stand it. I had to go. On my first impression, it's vibrant. It's a light. It really wakes your palate up. That fruit comes forward in the mouth a lot. Really, 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 really enjoy this. I can see the bourbon influence in it. Mm-hmm. Some of that vanilla in there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it's the first taste I had was delicious. The finish came through, and it was mouthwatering. Right? Mm-hmm. It really was mouthwatering, and wanted you to go more. And then it went a little bit bitter after the mouthwatering. So really interesting the way it worked out on the flavor, on the taste.
Yeah. So I've had now 2 sips. The tropical aromas and all those upfront flavors from the nose carry right through the taste. It's really fruit forward, but it is balanced with a good deal of like minerality and spice. To your point, there is a burn that's on the tail, and it hangs on there like a little bit. Like, have you ever had cayenne pepper? Mm-hmm. Cayenne pepper is earthy and it's spicy, and most people don't like drown their food in it. They just put a touch, and that's what it feels like. Just that little bit of touch of heat that just sort of hangs on the back. It's balanced, don't get me wrong, but it's got a good amount of heat for being 80 proof.
For being 80 proof, yeah.
Right.
You would have thought it was much higher proof, but yeah, I agree. It does have that heat in there. A spicy finish, very well rounded.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a good balance here. You get sticky sweetness again. It feels like that agave syrupy taste is well balanced and sort of hanging out just nice with a lot of that fruit flavor. But to me, again, I get like sea salt, I get a good deal of minerality there, and just that lingering pepper. Vanilla starts to shine through too, that just to give it that extra coat within that sweetness.
Something I just noticed, and I don't know if it's the power of my own suggestion, but we were talking about the peppery finish. The peppery finish was there. I went back to smell it, and I smelled black pepper, like black peppercorn. Yeah. And it was like, I didn't get that on the first time through, but now that I tasted it, I had that taste profile in my mouth. I went back in, and I could really smell like black pepper on the nose.
The peppercorns.
Yeah. Which is really interesting. So it's interesting, like you were saying, the power of suggestion, to see other people's reviews. Mm-hmm. That's why a lot of times I don't like to read reviews, not mentioning about whether the actual facts are true or not, but everyone has a different palate. Mm-hmm. So I like to experience it myself.
So those return sips, they bring up I feel like it brings up the minerality every single time. A little bit more, a little saltier. But I'm getting more lime. And now I'm getting like this dry papaya note. This, earthy fruit that wasn't quite there at first. I get real sweet fruit up front. But like those return sips start to get a little bit drier now.
Yeah.
Little less clingy on the palate. But as far as like that finish, it's a nice, delicate, yet long finish.
Right. And I think that speaks to the tequila. I almost said whiskey. But it speaks to the tequila about how interesting or complex it could be. Because we've gone through different profiles on this tequila already, and it's only been a few minutes. So I've really enjoyed this. It's actually really good.
So as a bourbon drinker, would you recommend it to other bourbon drinkers?
I would 100%. I think it taps on the door of bourbon, but
Sweet.
it's not a bourbon.
Right.
It's definitely tequila. There's no mixing and thinking, that could be a bourbon. There's no way. It's definitely a tequila, 100%.
It's like going to an event, and on one side, right, you got rock and roll, right? You got rock and roll, and then you start moving to the other side, and like, oh, that's some salsa dancing or something going on over there. Like that's totally different music, but somewhere along the way, you're like, all right, I like going here and I like going here.
Yeah,
it's a good sipper.
It still feels
a great sipper.
I really enjoy it. I think it's a great sipper.
Yeah,
I've not had a lot of tequila. I've not had a lot of good sipping tequila. But I'm trying to expand my palate. Trying to learn more about tequila. This would definitely be one I would put in my collection, front and center on the bar, so for people to ask questions about or say, hey, what's that bottle? And so let me pour you some and have that conversation about this one.
So price point on this is about $50-$60. So for that price, I feel like I get my money's worth. It's a good, classy tequila too.
Yeah.
I could see this being like top shelf. I like the extra añejos if I can get them, just because it tend to have a lot more sweetness and depth. That's what I like about this. It feels like it has a little bit more depth to it.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's really good. I keep coming back to that finish. The finish is really good on that. I like it a lot.
And it's still kind of warms. It's a little bit of a peppery finish.
It's a long finish. It starts a little bit sweet, and then it grows into the pepper, and then the pepper just kind of grows, and then it slowly fades. So it's a very long finish on that.
Yeah. So if you're a whiskey drinker, this is the tequila bottle for you. So I definitely recommend it for my whiskey drinkers, especially if you're a Scotch drinker. This is like right on profile, just a bit more tropical than you're used to.
Great call out.
100%. Yeah, your Scotch drinkers are going to want to pick that one up. And I think for the MSRP, like the price point, you just can't beat it. Like $50 is like a drop in the bucket now for whiskey drinkers these days, right?
Especially Scotch.
Yep. So next time you're at Total Wine & More, you may want to stop by and check them out. I say Total Wine & More because I haven't seen these anywhere else. If you guys see them anywhere else, drop a comment, let me know. Also, if you guys are new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you got to learn a little bit about this one and whether you should get it. And if you're a return sipper, thanks again for showing us support and some love. And here at Whiskey One, it's about the one you enjoy. Cheers.